Welcome to Life's a Coach. Our mission is to empower individuals like you to take charge of your life, discover your purpose, and elevate your performance to new heights. Each week, we'll be diving into engaging discussions, introducing you to valuable tools from the coaching world, and giving you different perspectives on individual development. Whether you're seeking clarity, motivation, or a fresh perspective, we've got you covered. Again, welcome to Life's a Coach, where the power to transform your life begins now.
Welcome to Life's a Coach. And today we've got Alma, Eric, Sophia, and myself, Avro Yosfat.
Hello.
Today we're going to be discussing authentic leadership, leading from your true self. How's that?
Wonderful. Let's go.
Perfect.
I'm going to keep everything we recorded. You know what I'm saying? This just makes us more human.
Yeah.
And relatable.
You can mix it up later.
Mm-hmm. So, Sophia, I think it was you and Alma who came up with this topic, right?
Do you remember why, Alma?
Because it was on the list.
Yeah, probably.
So, ladies first, right, Eric?
Absolutely. Ladies first.
Yeah, I don't remember. I will honestly say it was on the list, and we were just going down the list, and
in a way, I remember that we found it related with what we were trying to do, because that was the day when we organized the new ground rules, the agenda for the next month, and because we were thinking, yeah, this is going to be some next great moments for us, so let's try to organize the team in a way that it could be more efficient and more easy for everybody to follow through so that's when we started to work on that, and by the end we decided the topics, and we think, yeah, this is what leadership means, trying to help each other to work in a goal, that it's our goal was to have a structure to this podcast and to have it being released. So this is also something that we brought. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
What do you like? So it sounds like you're kind of getting into this anyway, but I'll ask all of you to think about. Let's come up with 3, right? Skills or qualities that you think are most important for an authentic leader. And I know there's more, but what would you put at the top of the list?
You just said it. Authentic leader. Huh?
Authentic, yeah. Authentic, and also to a certain extent transparent too. Actually, I can.
That's what I mean. So that might be one of the skills or the values, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say makes a leader authentic?
Well, the tagline is leading from your true self.
Okay.
All right. And I can actually jump on that too. It's interesting that we got this topic, as I just remembered I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday. And it was about leadership. And then as we were talking about it, I remembered it kind of then boiled down to what kind of leaders that we both want to be, right? Me and this friend. And as I was sharing, I remembered something that happened to me that just came up in that conversation, is that so as you guys know, I'm part of a men's collective called the Wolfart Way, right? Now, as I was sharing with my friend about leadership, I got to realize that, wait, I remember one thing for me, just talking about the leadership that we have in the Wolfart Way, is that I've been, in my life path has taken me in different places and spaces where I've had to sit under, even in religious spaces. I come from a very religious background, and I've been in many churches, different places like that, where I've seen people abuse their power as leaders, right? And there was a bit of lack of transparency, lack of this and that. But just I can tell that I'm all over the place now, but just bringing it back down is that one thing that I loved about, I actually got to a place where I had issues trusting other men, right? Because of the experiences I'd had. But that had a turnaround for me when I noticed there were two leaders at this at Who Fought Away who had a disagreement, right, and this heated situation that happened between them, but it happened publicly whilst we're part of the weekend that we are away in the desert, and so then they kind of went their separate ways, but then they came back and they did the cleanup and they did the resolving the conflict, right, also in a public way, right, to say, okay, everybody saw us, we had a bit of a scuffle, right, and now we're going to clean it up, but we're also going to do it in a public way that other men there can see how we do the cleanup, and for me, just taking that accountability, and even the way they did it is also part of like consciously being aware of yourself, like, okay, you know what, when you set that fire on, because it happened when one of the brothers was trying to set a fire pit. We're gonna trying to do this thing where you walk on fire, on ashes. Yeah, it was one of the activities we had that weekend. So, but when one of the brothers turned it on, it went bigger than expected, right? And it triggered one of the other brothers, thought that there was a huge fire happening. So the way he came and the way he reacted and the way he was shouting and screaming and everything, it got a little bit messy. So to then see the brothers come together and he goes, hey, so when you turned on that fire, I felt scared. I felt scared because in that moment, it reminded me of a time when my dad was helping me make a fire and it got out of control. And what my dad said to me and did to me, like all those feelings are what came back for me. So the way I reacted or I spoke to you was not really the way I wasn't speaking to you. I was speaking to my dad, and the fear and everything just came up, right? So to hear someone consciously own that, and he's one of the top leaders, like he was one of the leaders above everybody else in that group at that time. It's like he's publicly amongst everybody else saying, being humble enough to do the work in front of everybody and say, hey, this is what you did, but what you did affected me this way, and I'm owning the way I reacted, I'm owning the way I lashed out, and I'm also doing the work to show you that I'm also seeing that this had nothing to do with you, it was a trigger, but I'm also doing the work to show where the trigger came from, right? So I apologize, I'm sorry I lashed out at you, but this is it, then the other brother had to like, I get that, I appreciate that, and also for me, I'm sorry because when you then spoke like this happened in me too. It's just like watching them do the whole process of doing the work for themselves in a public setting, it really like transformed the way I saw men doing stuff. And for me, it wasn't just like seeing men resolve a conflict in a very different way than I've ever seen, but it was also thing like, wait, these are leaders, right? And they're doing this, they're literally owning their shit, taking out accountability, and also leading by example of how we do conscious partnership, how we do conscious relationships, and they were actually being vulnerable, putting the guards down and just being open and just laying it out there. And it brought a bigger result between the two of them. But even for us guys who were watching, because even after that, we had a conversation about that. And a lot of the guys were like, we kind of used to like when men, get to a point you want to pull up your fist and get ready for fights. And like, we've seen men trying to deal with conflict differently. But this was just a big example for me that actually felt like that was the turning point for me to be able to start trusting men again. So I know this situation that happened for me was just like watching other men do it. But what stuck the most for me is that they were leaders, right? And they were the men leading. So to me, I saw that that's something that spoke volume to me. I was like, okay, I want to be that kind of leader, because I'm not just talking the talk, but I'm actually walking it in a way that I don't even have to talk it. When people see it, they can just get what I'm about. It's and everything about them was very authentic. Even when the other brother went inwards and like started reliving that trigger of him, you could see the pain, you could see the tears. It's like he was back in that moment when he was a kid and having this issue with the fire, and at the same time he's in it, and at the same time processing it and putting it out there. And that was a huge flip. So for me, that spoke volume about that kind of leadership. Is the kind of people I mean, okay, I would trust these people. I can trust these people. It's safe.
Love that.
Like that. Yeah.
I love the way that you described that, Averill,
Mm.
because you described it from a viewpoint of the follower, right? Of the person who is being led, right? Because you can't have leadership without people that are willing to follow, first of all. So I think it's very powerful the way that you frame that. And I would, say what stood out to me with that story was the ability to be vulnerable, right? To the ability to be to allow others to see your scars, to see your wounds, and then that level of relatability and trust that is built throughout that process, right? I would have loved if Jean would be on this podcast, right? Because I know she would get deep into this kind of stuff that I'm going to bring up now, which
Okay.
is the topic of masculine and feminine leadership styles and those energies, right? Because when I grew up in a sports environment, but also I was brought up Roman Catholic, so in the church, right, where it's very much about discipline, about following the rules, and I would describe it as a very masculine environment of leadership, right? Of assertiveness, being decisive, being dominant, and there was one way of doing things, very uniformity and things like that, right? So I was very much shown that if you were a leader, so I was like a team captain on my soccer team the final year, my senior year, I was almost taught that way to be a leader, right? That, it needed to be very rigid, very kind of, one way, my way or the highway kind of thing. And that's how I was coached throughout the whole time. But obviously, more recently, since I've been on this journey, and also as a leader within my organization, I work for a youth soccer club as a director. So I work with the coaches with coach education and educating and leading them to discover challenges and deal with parent issues and things like that. I realized very much what you realized there, right? That the ability to lead is very much based on your ability to use both sides, right? So you look at the feminine types of leadership, collaboration, the ability to have empathy. We spoke about emotional intelligence last week, right? What I got from your story was self-awareness. He'd done the work himself to realize why he was triggered. The self-regulation, the ability to be able to regulate his emotions, even though in the moment he was triggered, to understand that, hey, he was in a safe environment and he had to now. And then the social skills to now communicate that in a loving way that helps people understand. For me, that's it in a nutshell, right? Being a good leader,
So would that be your 3 then?
That's emotional intelligence. So I would just say I would use emotional intelligence as one, and then I'd definitely try and get a couple more in there. so just to cheat, right? Yeah, but no, for sure. But I'm interested to hear, Sophia and Almar's thoughts.
I'm curious about to hear Almar also because
No.
let's start with you because I know that you have a role. You have like this also very important thing on leadership and it's within you. So I was hearing to Averill and then to Eric about this thing on masculinity, feminine, how men act as leaders, how women act as leaders. But in my point of view also, women's roles in leadership also have been changing. And the way we are asked to act as leaders, sometimes it's different than the way that we would like to act or in the way that we would be more comfortable to act. So I really would love, Almar, if you came with your input.
Well, thank you, Sophia. Really, I actually have a question for Averill, and I guess also to what Eric had said. So I'm going to table your request, Sophia, and I wanted to ask Averill and Eric, based on the stories and the feedback that you guys both gave. So am I to deduce that leaders are not necessarily born, they're made? And, is this what you're saying? And then number two, April, your story about you being in admiration of the two leaders who decided to take their public brawl and resolve it in front of everyone due to the circumstances. And that sealing the deal for you, that's who you wanted to, that you were comfortable standing with them because you'd like the way they resolved the conflict. But I would like to challenge you for two things, because one, going back to if they're born or made or both, it takes a lot of work for any human being to get to the point, forget about doing it publicly, but even acknowledging their emotional outburst. I guess I'll just use the word. And because I think emotional intelligence also involves realizing that you did have a break in your steady nature, but not quite understanding where it came from and why it has exposed itself. And I think emotional intelligence is being able to step away and taking the time that you need to go through the emotions and the feelings that you're having in private to ensure that that it doesn't get out of hand, to ensure that the resolution that you want from this conflict is something that you arrive at. And so I don't think I would be careful to say that just because, let's say he didn't, I know the circumstances were different. It was a very public, it was a group, it was a weekend. But if he chose, whichever leader, to not address it immediately because he needed the time to organize his thoughts, perhaps even to reduce his anger, because there's anger also that goes, and you do not want to resolve any conflict when there's still anger seething below, because you are never going to get to that right place. And I think that's also emotional intelligence. The problem is that if one person is more confrontational and the other one needs to go more inward to figure it out, then there's an inequality and there's an impatience. When one person is impatient and wants to settle it now, and the other person needs their time to figure it all out, I don't, that's the opposite of what you just described with these two leaders. But I think that's also, really important, and a quality of emotional intelligence as well. So,
Yeah, sure.
anyway, that's my thought.
So to answer that, so to give context,
Mm-hmm.
for me, yes, their process and how they did it was amazing, right? But what touched me for what touched me, what made an impact for me, was the transparency, right? So, like I was saying, I had been under many different leaders in my lifetime who just hide things under the rug, right? Or we could be in a church and we know there's some stuff going on between pastor so and so and elder so and so. Everybody knows it, but it's not addressed. You get what I'm saying? Then weeks later, we just act as not everything is wrong, but we don't talk about it. So yes, these brothers, they had their thing in the morning, right, in the afternoon. Then later on in the evening, then in a group setting, they actually chose like, hey, look, we are here with other men and we are the leaders. We can easily do this work, because it's called the guy who heads it. One of the co-founders of Wolford Way is a conscious partnership coach, right? He's been doing this a lot in his life, and a lot of his leaders, he teach them conscious partnership in romantic relationships, business relationships. He does that. That's what he trains. So a lot of his leaders, including myself, we've already done training with him how to process and do the work when it comes to things like that. So they actually were gonna resolve it privately and do that whole process. But what they chose to do is like this thing happened in front of everybody, right?
Teaching.
Yeah. So why don't we use it as teaching point? So instead of just us getting resolved in public, the guys don't know how we did it. So let's use this and come and do it. So even when they did it, it wasn't a staged thing. They actually said, you know what, let's wait, then do it later on when everybody's there and resolve that. So that's why it's like even the emotions that were there, his tears and everything, it was raw because they were actually in that moment doing the process. And the part that you're talking about is all about at times with emotional intelligence, you may need the time to go process the feeling, feel it out, feel all the feels, express them and everything. I think that's also what happened because it happened in the afternoon. Then they come back in the evening. It's like, okay, I'm now in a good headspace to come and do that. So I just thought I'd give context with that too, or clarity with that. And as for our leaders born or made, it's been a while since I've had that question. It's been a long time since I had that question. However, I suppose if I was to answer that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have a different answer, response to that. But today, especially with my inner work journey and the work I've been doing and even emotional intelligence in regards to me, than where I was back then, I feel like leaders can be made, right? Leaders can be made. I'm a far better leader now than I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because of working on myself to become a better leader. All right. And uh, though I also feel like sometimes, just like an athlete, right? You may be born already with certain skills genetically that your body can do that are better than someone who has to learn to do it. Like, okay, let me use something that I'm more used to, dancing, right? There's certain people already got the rhythm in them, right? And there's certain people who they can work on the rhythm. I must start off counting, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But give me a few years, I don't have to count. And someone can look at me and look at someone who's got the natural dancing talent and may not know the difference, cannot notice the difference. So I also feel that may also apply to leadership, that some people may just come on this planet with a certain way they're wired in their brain, and they can still get to improve that too. They still get to improve that too. So that would be my response to that. I don't know. Eric, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think, I would definitely say more. Well, you hear stories of perhaps leaders who, you know what I mean, they were born, and their mothers and fathers were leaders, for example, right? And you could be led to believe that that would very much be based down to something genetic inside of them. And I think we all have our genetic dispositions, as Abel's talking about, but I think it's much
Mm-hmm.
more. I would agree that through my experiences, I would say that it's much more down to your experience and your let's say your upbringing, and then your experience throughout life, right? That is going to shape your ability to be able to lead. And I think cultivate the right type of leadership for you, right? Because I think that's what makes leadership effective. I think is really the connection that you have with the follower, with the person that you are leading. Because without that emotional connection that you can build with that person, that trust that goes both ways. And I'm talking now with athletes, but also for us as coaches and perhaps our coaching clients, right? We work a lot on the ability to be able to build trust through things like vulnerability, but like real vulnerability, right? And telling certain stories about what we've gone through, but also, seeing someone, right? Seeing someone for who they are and accepting who they are. Because us as people, we're very, there's the story of the three masks that we give everyone, right? There's the mask that we have and we show all the world, right? That it's kind of like our best selves, right? Then there's the other mask that we show those closest to us. So I would say that you guys are probably in that second boat, really, right? That I feel comfortable enough to show you that. But then there's another mask that when we're behind closed doors and we're by ourselves, that we don't really show anyone. It's that what Averill will know, and I'm doing a lot of work on now, it's maybe our shadow, right? That shadow work, that perhaps that alter ego sometimes of us that no one really sees. We don't really want anyone to see. But it's that part that if we can tap into that part and allow that to come out and allow somebody to realize that they, regardless whether of their faults, of their of their shortcomings, of their difficulties, of their weaknesses, that they're still loved and accepted. Do you know what I mean? And that's still a part of them, and that they can kind of continue to flourish and to develop that. So yeah, long-winded answer of saying that definitely it's I feel as it's something that's definitely cultivated and worked on. Sophia?
Yeah, I think going back to your question, Eric, one of the characteristics, and then I will merge this with what you guys were sharing in Almer's question. One of the characteristics that I think that it's more important also, apart from what you said, that I truly agree, it's the resilient part. Because a leader being resilient also helps the team to believe more in things and to be on the same boat as them. I don't know if I'm making any sense with what I'm saying, but throughout my life, when I saw people that have been through some difficult stuff and worked on that and overcome it and then made their path in a successful way, and when I mean successful is a healthy way, okay, a good way of fulfilling their dreams or fulfilling what they wanted. There's always a story of challenge behind and how they overcome that challenge. So the merge would be on this, on Averill's mentioning that you need to work on yourself, and being what Almer also highlighted, it's the emotional intelligence to recognize to yourself and being honest on why am I feeling this, the triggers and everything, and how can I work with this? And then the courage part of being there to do this kind of work. So in a way, I will probably go always with leaders can be definitely made on the part of they are born. Yes, Eric, to your point, maybe we see some good examples of leadership, but we can also destroy that if we don't do the job or if we don't do the work. Even if we've seen the best examples there are in life, we have the power in ourselves to destroy whatever we see that is good if we don't work on ourselves, if we don't are able to be courage and resilient to also do some work on that.
So, Alma, we've both answered. You still haven't answered Sophia's question.
I don't know.
I haven't forgotten yet.
I actually kind of did forget, but I just wanted to highlight what everybody is saying is that we are all leaders and we all have our own style of leadership. And just like maybe somebody knows how to be a manager, it doesn't mean I like your managerial style, or not that I like it, it doesn't work for me. The same thing with leadership, is that we are all leaders, but finding the right groove, somebody that works with you, that's I think paramount. But I would like to ask, what is the role of a leader? I mean, we're talking about emotional intelligence as being a quality that is really important in leadership. But what is a leader? What is their role exactly? Where are they going? Why have a leader?
I'd like to jump in on this one because
me too. But go ahead, Eric.
I think. Sorry, no, Sophia, you go first.
You go first.
You know it's a
Sorry,
good question when you go.
I jumped in.
You know it's a
exactly.
good question,
It is,
Alma, when you got three
Thank
people like,
you.
oh,
I
well,
know.
yeah,
Like,
Repeat it again,
I'm ready.
Alma.
I'm ready.
All right,
My
let's
hands
do
on the
it.
buzzer. My hands on the buzzer.
Repeat it
All right.
again, Alma. Repeat it again.
Yeah, please.
no, just go with it.
I believe the question was what is the role of a leader,
Of a leader,
right?
yeah.
Generally. So generally, I would take it back to, and what I was alluding to before was, before we can lead others, we need to be able to lead ourselves. And I think that this is a common theme that is coming out throughout this podcast, is our relationship with ourselves, our self-awareness, our self-regulation, our ability to understand our own triggers, and our own strengths, right?
Yeah.
So I would caveat that answer by saying that the role of a leader is to empower others to lead themselves. So it's not specifically to lead them anywhere. And I think that's a misconception, that within the title of leadership, you have to go and you need to take someone somewhere. But really, I think the best leaders really almost make themselves obsolete. And the best leaders create other leaders and transform others to be leaders.
Nice.
Yeah.
Gabriel, where's the applause?
Oh, the applause. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got an applause. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll get a drum roll, please. Okay. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's true.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
I really loved where you directed this, right? Because that's the point. I've heard in some places, and I think this is Denzel Washington phrase. I really don't know. That he says that a lot of people are willing to be followed, but there's not that much people that are willing to follow. And we all, like, humankind is also trying in a way to be influential. I don't remember the sentence correctly, but it's something like this. And what I admire more is seeing someone that is not looking to that, not looking to be influential, not looking to be a leader, but in a way, they are. It's they have people that admired not because of what they are doing, but because of what they are. So when you ask Almar, what's the role of the leader? Is it really a role, or is it a way of being?
Ooh. What do I have for that? Yeah.
Very nice.
That's a mic drop moment. That's beautifully said, Sophia. Any response to that, Alma?
I'm just saying, look at all these leaders in the room.
It's interesting. I get where both of you are coming from, and I 100% agree. However, I feel like what you both mentioned, tools or aspects of a good leader, and not necessarily what would define as a leader.
So what would define a leader, Gabriel?
Because your question was, what is a leader?
Yeah,
Wasn't
what is
that?
a leader? What are they there for?
I mean, if it's what are they there for, is like, to me, I feel like they're there to guide people towards a certain common vision or goal. So if we're starting a business, we're starting a company, starting a school, we've all agreed we want to get from point A to point B, right? But we need someone who pulls it all together and said, okay, this is the way how we're gonna do it, and everybody kind of follows suit or fall in place with their different roles to make sure that we're going to, I mean, we can talk of that metaphor, whatever they call it, of like too many cooks spoil the broth, right? Like we all want to cook this thing, right? But someone has to say, okay, we're only doing this amount. We're only putting these ingredients. This is how far we're going. And typically when we choose a leader, we're choosing someone who we know is going to come up with some of those good qualities or aspects that you guys both brought in, to make sure that we get whatever goal we're trying to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I would like based off of that, Avro, I think it's, the common view of leadership is almost in a pyramid fashion, right? With one person at the top and everyone kind of else slowly at the bottom, right? And I think, Life's a Coach is a perfect example of an organization, right? A podcast, whatever you want to call it, of like-minded individuals who share a vision but lead in different ways, right? And we almost, and it's been very natural, right? Just this kind of evolution of our roles within this podcast where, really it doesn't matter who leads, because I think it takes that level of humility to and trust, right? Which has taken time to build up over time to build almost a kind of level playing field for everyone to just kind of step into at the right moment. So there's it's a different leader at different moments, right?
Yes.
So, to that point, what, again, for our listeners who potentially are leaders within their organizations and they're trying to find the best way to lead, what would you say to them with regards to the best structure of leaderships? Is there a best, is it best for one person to kind of have final say over everyone, and to kind of, almost that old, the old style of leadership, or are we moving into a more kind of charismatic, democratic kind of style of leadership?
I would say I'll go back to something that Alma said earlier on. There are different styles of leadership, all right? And different styles of leadership work in different processes, right? If someone's running a church and someone's running a business, right? Okay, sometimes some churches are businesses, but someone's running a church and someone's running a business. There may be two different styles of leadership to work with, right? And also depending on what kind of team you're working with too, can also determine the type or style of leadership that is needed in that place. So, for example, when I look at us, right, we are all life coaches. We are all leaders within ourselves, and I love something that you brought forth about we can only lead others if we're able to lead ourselves, right? I like that statement that you made. And even today's topic is authentic leadership, leading from your true self. It's coming from here. So, but it's to say, okay, so coming back to what I'm saying about us is we are all leaders within ourselves. And so sometimes I can make a certain episode and Sophia's there with Alma and they just run it, right? And how Sophia hosts is different from how you host, Eric. You get what I'm saying? But it's all leadership either way, right? And our style of leadership, right, is there's no really who's the head of Life's a Coach hierarchy. There's no hierarchy there, right? We are all peers who come together for a common thing and we make it work. So it depends. So my answer to your question is I feel because they're different leadership styles, it also depend with what it is that you're trying to achieve, right? If I'm trying to produce music, because I've done music before, if I'm trying to work on an album, we now have different roles. There's a director, there's a producer, there's this, because we might all be leaders, but we have to take certain role, and it has to have a second. The buck has to, with certain projects, the buck has to stop with somebody. So someone has to be assigned to head it up, and that's when at times it's more it's a hierarchy. Okay, when it comes to the finances, okay, we've all debated about it, we've done the whole diplomatic stuff, but someone has to make the decision. So it ends up being this person has to kind of thing, So I'll say it depends with what the goal is of whatever process you're trying to do. And then you implement the different styles of leadership within that.
I really like what you said, Avril, on coming together for the common thing or the common goal. I think that is very important. And in a team, is it like our team, our life coaches podcast, or in an organizational team, this is very important that people are together with the common goal. They want to reach the same thing together, because this is what will make the team work good. Be respectful, be transparent, don't have a hidden agenda, for example. And this is some things that, at least on working on a company, I see this a lot. When people have hidden agendas, even if they are in the same team, there's where miscommunication comes up. There's when things don't work out correctly. And probably you also have this kind of experiences, or seen this kind of experience. And going back to the story that you said, Avril, by the end of the day, the brothers always also have the common thing. They want to achieve the same thing when they are in that weekend or with the project that they have. So that's why it's so important that they are also in this path of honesty, transparency, in vulnerability, because the goal, it's the same. So
yeah, that's nice. I like that alignment. And I couldn't agree more with the three of you that like for us in this platform, we all have the same goal. It's so we're all heading towards the same thing. We're all leaders, and that is that. I also know what it's like to be presented with a vision from a leader and know that it's not my vision. I don't quite see it, but I trust you as a leader. I trust your vision, and I trust you are going to make it there. And I am thrilled to help you along the way. It is not my vision. It doesn't mean I'm not a leader either, but it means I acknowledge that you are a leader, and I trust that you will take me there. But please take me there, because I am ready to work beside you to make it happen. And again, so it's that vision, it's that common goal that I think that at the end of the day is what we're all talking about.
Gotcha. So as we start wrapping up, our topic is like authentic leadership, leading from your true self. So I'm gonna pose a question to each of you, like, what does leading from your true self mean to each and every one of you? Like, what does leading from your true self mean to you, Sophia, Eric, and Alma?
Can I ask you first, Avril, since you posed the question?
Sure. Oh, you.
That's a boomerang. It's a boomerang.
Oh yeah.
Alma always does this. Alma always does this.
Well, I just don't want him to be left out.
Oh, you know what I gotta say to that? That's what I gotta say to that. Leading from my true self. Okay. For me, I take it back to something that Eric said earlier on about we can only lead others once we know how to lead ourselves, right? And he was talking about being self-aware and all that. So leading from my true self is, okay, I'm getting a lot of different ways to express this, but I may come into an organization, see Eric he's one of the leaders in another department, right? But Eric is leading from his style of leading. Like he's an athlete coach, right? So the way Eric carries himself, because he's an athletic coach, is gonna be different from the way I don't carry myself that way. Do you get what I'm saying? But when I'm now leading from an not my true self or an inauthentic place is when I'm trying to copy how Eric is doing it, right? And trying to do his leadership styles, or trying to like, oh, this is working for him, let me try it, but it might not even resonate with the fiber of who I am, right? Whereas he may have a, okay, guys, we're gonna do dot 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 dot. Okay, let's go, everybody. That might be his style. And for me, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm a leader who comes to inspire from the bottom, right? I come and inspire people from the bottom, where the some leaders want to pull people from the top. If you get my metaphor, you looking, you squinting,
Like, what does
Alma, you
that mean?
squinting.
From the
You
top? I
squinting.
don't know. I'm like, wait, I didn't get it. I just wanted like pull
All right.
people from the
Okay.
bottom. I didn't get it. I'm trying
Okay.
to.
So, personally, my style of leadership is always to empower people. Right. So I'm always trying to empower people, whoever I'm working with. Right. I take the time with them. I come to their level or where they're at and try to empower them in where they're at. Right. And my style of leadership too is to inspire someone to take ownership of whatever we're doing. Right. So, and I've seen that for me, that's the best best kind of way to run a team, when everybody takes ownership of the project. All right. There's this metaphor, this statement that I kind of ended up saying. I don't know if I created it, but I said it and it stuck with me. But I'm sure other people have said it before. Is in a team or in a whatever project you're working, you want people's hearts and not people's hands, right? I want people's hearts in whatever I'm working on. Like in life's a coach. I want your hearts. I don't want your hands. And what I mean by that is that someone who can give you their hands, they're the 9 to 5 people. Oh, it's 9:40. It's 5:44. It's 5:55. Okay, time to wrap up. I'm out. Right. Whereas you've got someone's heart. Right. They and if they take ownership of it, it's one of those things that they're also inspired. They love what they're doing. They're involved in it so much that it's 5:10. They're like, oh, well, the time is gone. It's my project, but they're working on that project with their heart, and even if it's already 5 p.m. and it's time to clock out, and their heart is saying, man, I still want to do more. You get what I'm saying? Is it different? So that's the kind of inspiring the kind of leadership I want, where I inspire people to be in a place where they take ownership of whatever it is we're doing. Because what my experience is that when we all take, like, for example, when we all take ownership of life's a coach, right? I'm not pushing people to get stuff done, right? People are just treating it as if they're on, so their best qualities come in. A few weeks ago, you guys, between you, Alma and Sophia, you came in with the administrative side. We're gonna do this. I want to put structure to it. I felt like, Sophia, in that moment, you were acting from ownership. This life's a coach is mine, so I see there's something here that I can address, and I've got the skill to address it. I'm just gonna get it done. Do you get what I'm saying? That's my style of affiliation. Well, I want people to take ownership of what we're doing. It's ours. It's our baby. So if it's our baby, then, if I'm not there, I know the baby's being taken care of. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have to, but if I have your hands and not your hearts, if I'm not there, people are not initiative in certain things. They're just like, I'm here to just clock in, do my time and clock out. I know I said it in a long-winded way, but what I was trying to say, if I bring it back to the question, leading from my true self is not knowing who I am, what kind of style of leadership I have, right? What kind of leader I am, and just sticking to it. So I'll give you one more last thought. I'll throw in one more last thing. There's that. So at Wolfart Way, we've got men from different backgrounds. We've got CEOs of Fortune 500 people. We got hippies. We got everybody, right? So there's a different type of man and masculinity and leadership that's there, right? So being true to myself is like, yeah, we got something. We're gonna go facilitate in certain things, right? I'm also a facilitator there. So, and I'm running little small groups with my team, right? But I'm not going to be intimidated or challenged by what the other do. I know who I am and what I bring to the table. And as this style of leadership that I have, I know its impact. I'm going to stick to, who are true to myself. It's not like I'm not open to learning other ways of doing things and improving. No, I am. But in everything that I'm doing, I'm leading from being true to here. And by that, to let me just put a little bit more context as I'm talking, I'm just getting one extra thing is that leading from a true self also means for me that if there are spaces where, yes, you've assigned me to your lead to be your leader, and I'm actually your leader in this particular task. And if I notice I've got a weakness somewhere and I'm not able to do something, my kind of leadership starts doing, like, hey guys, okay, this is a challenge for me. All right. If I can find one of you guys to help me with and step up, I'm going to let you know I don't have a solution for this. I'm going to seek out help, but I'm being transparent with my group. That to me is like leading from my true self, because it's another type of leadership that I've done also in the past is I'm struggling with something, but I'm just trying to fake it. Right. And people can see, your followers can see through your bullshit. That's one thing that I've known too. We can see through it. But anyway, I said a lot to just answer this one question, and we're meant to be wrapping up. My bad. So I don't know if I answered your question, Alma, but that's what I had to say.
Question, actually.
Oh yeah, but you threw it back to me. You threw it back to me.
What about you, Alma?
Back to you, Alma. Yeah.
My goodness, so much there. How can I concisely put this? Let's see. Well, to summarize, Avril, basically, again, you reiterated common goal, right? Because you realize that everybody has a common goal, and people step up and they will stay 10 minutes past quitting time because they're passionate and they believe in the common goal. And you, as the leader, are leading them to the common goal. So it feels good. I see where you're taking me and I'm excited to go there. That's wonderful. But I also think with all that, that's the emotional, personal aspect, which is very, very important, because you need everyone to agree. You need to there's a camaraderie, right? There's an agreement that you make. But I like a leader who has all of that and leads. Like maybe I need a carrot every day. I need to be reminded where we're going. And if I see or if I feel that there is no carrot that day or that week, and I'm not really quite sure, and maybe I don't really believe we're going to get there, that's dangerous as well. That's a dangerous atmosphere for a leader. And so I think there's so much more involved than the emotional intelligence and your style as a leader, but there is a great responsibility to being a leader. That's why it's not taken on lightly, that's for sure. And
so leading from a true self for you, because you are a leader, right? So let's hear Alma. What's leading from a true self back to you?
Just being me and not hoping to God that I have a team that believes in the same vision that I do and that I can take them there. And not apologizing for, not apologizing that I'm not sorry, but, not making excuses and just being like, no, trust me, we are going to get there. And I'd like you all to, challenging. There's the word. I'd like not only to be challenged as a leader, but to challenge everybody around me to step up and let's all reach that goal together. I'm not pulling a rope and dragging people behind me. I want us all to get to the top together. But maybe with my sports background, let's go. If you needed to have taken a nap earlier, you take that nap, because this is where we're going and we're going to, get there. And I don't like excuses. So I don't like to give them myself, which may come off as, maybe being a little secretive and not transparent. But it's not that. Is that at the end of the day, nobody wants to hear an excuse because it doesn't change anything. It actually waters down your power, I think. And especially if you know that you have the integrity, and it's very rare that you might, have to give a quote unquote excuse. But that's trust, be truthful. Like you said, Averill, I think you're absolutely right. If I can't make it this week, if I can't show up because I'm having, too much on my plate, I'm going to let you know. But by no means does it mean I'm closing up shop, because we're all in this together. But I just need to know that I'm not going to show up maybe so much this week. And I trust that that's okay, because we're all heading to the same goal. And I can go on another tangent about this new world and how we're a little bit too into our personal time that we all need, which takes away from a goal, but that's for another day.
If I can just go to something, Elmer, to your point, and I think what you framed here is very important for people also to be reminded, and also remind themselves that there's the challenge part that we all need sometimes to be pushed, to be remembered of. And one thing that I also was thinking while you were speaking is, maybe we don't get the question a lot, that what kind of leader do you want to be? And in another way, what kind of leader do you want to have? And maybe I will just leave our listeners with these two questions, because really these are two important questions that create self-awareness, and that can also make you create decisions. Because if you know what kind of leader do you want to be, or at least if you have an idea of that, and if you know or have an idea of what kind of leader do you want to have, this can make you make decisions if you are in the place that you want to be. Working in what you want to work in. That's it.
Lovely. Thank you, Sophia.
Awesome. I love that, Sophia. Can you just one more time repeat that question that you said you want to leave with the listeners?
Sure. What kind of leader do you want to be? It was what Almar, in a way, posted on us, like leading from your true self is what kind of leader do you want to be? And what kind of leader do you want to have? Because in a way or another, we always have one leader in our life. Right?
I like that. I like that.
I know we're wrapping up, but we can't leave Eric out.
Yeah, I was going to say that. We didn't lost Eric, guys. We didn't lost Eric.
So Eric, we know you're a man of a few words. So can you wrap it up for us with a few words? No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, no. A few words. I'll keep it brief but poignant, because I've been taking notes on that past 5-10 minutes of you guys, I guess, brainstorming. Because what I would encourage any leader listening to this podcast to do is to create your own model of leadership, right? And I'm big on acronyms. So based off of everything that Almar, Averill, and Sophia have just said there in their closing statements, let's go with the acronym VISION. V stands for values first, right? You need to jump in with people who share the same values, the same life vision as yourself, going on that road to what you want to achieve. Okay. You need to inspire, right? Use storytelling, as Averill did today, to relate the people that are coming on your journey to them, right? S, you need strategy, right? You need an action plan. It can't be all fluff. Can't just, be, all rainbows and butterflies and inspiration, right? So you need a clear strategy and performance goals to help achieve those. Integrity, tell people the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Show vulnerability, okay? You need to be authentic in the way you talk to people. O, open communication, okay? Two-way communication, okay? Have an open door policy. You need to be clear and have cadence with your communication and make sure that's two-way. And N stands for nurture. Nurture the talent and the growth so that they can grow from a little cocoon into the butterflies that they are. Boom.
Damn.
That's just a little bottom line there for you guys. Boom. For all you guys. That was all you guys.
That was amazing.
Oh, that was wonderful. I love it.
Did you just make that on the spot?
I was making notes
on the spot?
Well, if you circle back, honestly, if you circle back to the last 5 minutes, honestly, and you write down vision, you will see that everything's in there for sure.
Now that's what makes you a great Atlas coach. I just gotta say that right there.
It's impressive.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks
to
everyone.
our listeners and viewers for joining us today. This has been quite an interesting podcast. I loved it. And interesting enough, I just noticed that as we were all sharing like our thoughts and opinions and everything and our views and perspectives, I got to see all our different leadership styles shine through. Like, that's the kind of style that Alma likes. That's the kind of style she is. Oh, Sophia, you're like that, huh, girl? I see you. You know, and Eric, you had to like drop the bomb like that. I'm still in the room, people. I'm still in the room. I'm still in the room.
To be fair, it was brainstorming. And like Sophia said, I don't think that's a question really asked very often. I know I've never been asked that question, and I've never really had the opportunity to think about it. So I was riffing as the recording was going. And so, it is true that we challenge everybody listening out there to ask yourself that question and see what you come up with, because it's the first time I've been posed that question, and it was very enlightening. So awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. So thank you once again for joining us. This has been Life's a Coach, that podcast where we coaches come and discuss various topics that impact people's lives and just thrash them out. So thanks again for joining us. See you next time.
See you next time.
And we are out.
See you guys.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Life's a Coach, where our conversations aim to empower and support your personal growth. Until next time, remember that personal development is ongoing, so keep exploring, keep learning, and keep living a life that aligns with your true purpose. Take care, and we'll see you on the next episode of Life's a Coach.